Welcome, everyone, to the September 4th, 2018 meeting of the Lake Forest City Council. Today, the meeting will start with an invocation by Ms. Iman Saime Med from the Orange County Islamic Foundation. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Join me in prayer, please. Dear God of justice and mercy, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of our city. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with clarity and sincerity. Give us a spirit of service. Remind us and humble us that our service is for your sake and under your authority. Guide us to be the leaders your people and creation need. Help us see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us, and to treat all persons with the reverence your creation deserves. And finally, O Lord, renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build a worthy community. We ask this of you as your servants who are in need of you, confident in your goodness, love, and mercy. May God bless us all. May God bless America. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Will be led by Councilmember Colonel Tom Cagley.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And tonight we have a presentation from the Orange County District Attorney, and I don't see him. Maybe he got arrested on the way in. Can you arrest the District Attorney? Sure, actually, and sometimes you have to. All right, well then we'll move ahead, and if he comes in, we'll halt everything and listen to what he has to say. In the meantime, then, we'll just move on to the public comment section of the agenda. As a reminder, if you would like to participate, please fill out a blue speaker card, turn it into the city clerk, and your name will be called. Madam Clerk, have we received any requests to speak?
Yes, Your Honor. Barbara Schulman, followed by Bob Newcomb.
Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Barbara Schulman. I taught at Serrano in Lake Forest for 17 years, so I feel like this is sort of my home. I don't live here, but I wanted you to know because I feel it's important that possibly a teacher on the board who actually understands what's happening. Right now, as you all know, we are in declining enrollment because we all live in cities which people are living in the houses much longer than they used to. And so we don't have many children. So I think having somebody who has a knowledge of what actually happens in the school and where money should go and how it should be spent would be a good thing. So there are 4 of us running. I taught special education in Saddleback for 25 years. It is my passion, and then I retired and I was bored. No, I always knew I wanted to run. I've been at every board meeting for 29 years except for when my son had cancer, and luckily he's healthy, and that's fine, but that was the only time I wasn't there because I believe what happens in the school is important, and my slogan is that the community will succeed when students succeed. So I just wanted to introduce myself to you all, and thank you very much for everything you do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Back to you.
And thank you for your 17 years for the kids at Go Seahawks.
Could you, maybe while you're still here, could you tell us what differentiates you from the other 4 candidates running?
Yes, sir, I can. It seems that everybody has put down the word teacher in front of their name on the ballot, even though they're not all really teachers. I think what what makes me stand out is the knowledge of how the district has run for the 29 years. I have sat at board meetings because I wanted to know how it ran. I'm not just jumping in now. I've always wanted to know how the district runs, and I think that makes me different. You have one gentleman here from Lake Forest who is an incumbent who is running, who has been on the board for 8 years. There's a gentleman from Laguna Woods who is running, and there's a gentleman who is an educator at Saddleback College. So I'm the only woman. I think that could be a good thing right there, Mayor. I don't know, but it sounds good to me. Yeah, sounds good to me.
You got her vote.
I got Lay's vote. But I think that's what makes me different, is that I know what's happened in the district, is that I have been there. I've been in the trenches. I've worked with the teachers. I've worked with the PTA. I've done all those things, so I have a very rounded idea of what should happen. And so that's the reason I think I would be the right choice.
Okay, thanks.
Besides being cute and happy and funny, so you know.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Thanks for hearing I have a few questions, and I have some photos with the questions that make it a lot easier for everybody to understand, hopefully, without me trying to explain what I'm talking about. You can visually look at it.
Thank you for bringing those.
Yeah, it's always been helpful. Anyway, there's a thing that I worked on with the city a while back with the permanent parking in our neighborhood. I'm in track 6770, which is down Ridge Route, the Bird Streets. Okay. Anyway, this picture is the backside that's Gowdy, which parallels Interstate 5. And then there's a sharp turn you can see right at the end of the photo there. There's a city park right back up there. Okay. The big deal is that the overflow parking, even though some of the stuff is permitted and it has helped some of the streets, it all has accumulated on the back side here, which adds to, we can't get the street guy comes by and there's no sweeping, anything going on. So what happens is we've just got a bunch of trash, a bunch of things that are it's just getting worse all the time instead of better. So we have to do something to get that where the guy can get in there at least once a week and do that. Now the compliment on item number 4 is I've been talking to the traffic service gentleman who's come by, and he's doing a nice job of getting vehicles towed out of there. They were just lining up back there. Nobody cared. It's hidden. So what? Out of sight, out of mind. And I said, well, it's in my sight. I've been a long-time resident, and I want to try to keep the city as nice as I can. So he's done a bang-up job on watching that, getting rid of the old cars and this and that. But there's nothing he can do for the street sweeping. So that's a big deal. And the second part of this is, as you can see in that photo, the sidewalk there, that's a city sidewalk. Now, there are no homes. It's simply a brick wall there. So it never gets swept. And I think because of that long strip on the left-hand side, that's taken care of by the city. So you have manpower out there all the time. And I worked with the guy in charge of that where he is sweeping on that curve. I take up half of that curve, and they're sweeping my sidewalk because I requested him to do that. And he said he'd be glad to. But I think they ought to carry it out and kind of do that whole side and just help there. The last thing, and I think this is something to do with I'm in part of the Beach and Tennis Club. I think this is part of them. See the bush that's hanging over? Around the corner, there are trees that are hanging over that wall. And I think and I'm looking for help here from you folks, I think that belongs to our association for them to do something with that because it's on their property. However, it's hanging over and dropping stuff onto your sidewalk. So if you could send a polite note to the manager over there at the club and going, hey, you know what? Let's work together here and see if we can help get all of this together and make it better and easier and better looking. So that's just kind of what I was trying to bring to the forefront. The sweeping's a big deal, and all of this, I think we could work together on it and just make it good for everybody. So thanks for the time. I appreciate it very much, and keep up the good work until the law enforcement guy is doing a good job.
Okay,
Good thing. Thank you.
For public work, what do they have to do to get a sign on that street that lets people know when the street sweeping happens? So people probably don't know, so they're just parking there ignorantly.
Correct. And we have a policy to follow, and we'll follow up with Mr. Newcomb. We'll take a look at it and see what kind of impacts are out there. As you know, we've put up a number of signs, informational signs. We can go the next step to actually implement parking restrictions for the street sweeping. We'll experiment and take a look at what's going on.
Okay, thank you.
I'd be glad to walk it with somebody, and go here's important, not important, make it work for everybody type of thing. I'm willing to.
Okay, great, thanks. Next.
Nothing further from the public, Your Honor. Perhaps Facebook?
Oh, Facebook, yeah, Facebook, we are, as far as I know, Brett, correct me, are we still the only city that does this? Somebody else, I know you've been tutoring, Brett Channing, he's in charge of communications. We've been tutoring other cities in how they can do that, so people can participate online. And that's great. So welcome, Facebook, and do we have some questions?
We have one comment for public comment, sir.
Okay.
Rhonda Boer-Greiner, comment to council. In the recent ruling in favor of the city in the case of Horowitz versus Jennifer Connolly, Lake Forest City Clerk, the judge noted the following, quote, both the printed and signed name of Thomas Cochran on line 10 of the nomination paper appears to have been written by Jose Vizquay, end quote. Horowitz's nomination paper's circulator, Jose Vizquay, declared under penalty of perjury that, quote, each signature is the genuine signature of the person whose name it purports to be, end quote. And given that in Horowitz's writ of mandate, Jose Vizquay declared under penalty of perjury that it, quote, was Thomas Cochran who signed the nomination petition on line number 10, end quote, will the city protect the citizens of Lake Forest nomination process by reporting a potential criminal act has occurred and ensuring the DA will look fully into the matter?
Okay, thank you for your comment. All right, no further comments? Then we're on to the agenda. Items, the consent calendar. First off, the warrant register. All matters listed under the warrant register are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussions unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items be removed from the warrant register for separate action. Have there been any requests to pull an item from the warrant register?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'd like to make a note that there is an item that involves the city of Irvine. I am an employee of the city of Irvine, but I do not work for the department involved in this, and so because of that, and the city is a public agency, we've been deemed that it's okay for me to vote in the whole warrant registry.
Okay, then do we have a motion?
I'll move it.
I second that.
Second, okay. Vote, please.
That motion carries unanimously.
Now we have the consent calendar miscellaneous. And what I just said is the same thing. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote, blah, blah, blah. So are there any questions? Are there any requests? It's saying the same thing like 4 times. Doesn't make any sense. Are there any requests to remove an item from the consent calendar?
No, Your Honor.
Nothing from the
Move the consent calendar.
colleagues? Nothing? We have a motion from Councilman Voigt and a second from the Mayor Pro Tem. Please vote.
That motion carries unanimously.
Holy cow, we're going to set some kind of a record here. Jeez. Discussion action items. If I get home early, my wife's going to say what happened. Civic Center construction update. As you know, the city's spending $72 million building a new civic center. And with the blessing of God, we are on time and on budget. So this is quite remarkable and very gratifying to everybody. And today, actually, the council went out there, and we looked and took some pictures, which we'll share with everybody tomorrow. And but we thought, as we're getting close, it's about a year away, and as we're getting closer, we'd have a quarterly report, just so we could share that with the people, everybody in tune with what's going on. I believe they can also go up there. Can't they see the construction camera? So they can do that as well.
Yes, online we have a construction camera that takes a photo every 5 minutes. We've changed it. So they just go on the city's website and click on the construction camera. I think it's on the front page, and they can see the progress of the Civic Center site.
So it was very impressive. Everyone who saw it today was very impressed, and we're really excited to be on time and on budget. And I guess, Tom, is that your report for us?
Sure. I'd really just like to introduce our construction manager, Rick Fochman from Bernard's. They're doing the construction management. They'll provide a quarterly update, followed by Greg Powers, who's our owner's representative from Red Brick Consulting, to let council know directly just how we're doing.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing a great job so far.
Oh, thank you. Goes to my team who's with us tonight. So, my name is Rick Fochman, and I'm the Executive Vice President with Bernard's, your construction manager for the Civic Center project. And on behalf we're very pleased to be in your project tonight. Control the slides. So the Civic Center project is broken into 5 separate phases. First is the rough grading phase, which is complete. That was actually the project that built the site that we are building on. Phase 2 is the infrastructure and road. We're bringing in a brand new access road called Civic Center Drive, as well as all the new major utilities that will be serving the Civic Center site and the new Lennar development. That project is due to be complete in a few months now. We're just finishing up with utilities, and as you saw today, we're getting curb and gutter down and moving into the next phase, which will be paving in the fall. Phase 3 is the parking structure, and that outpaced the roadway, and it has been complete since April of this year. Phase 4 is habitat restoration. One of the components of the project was reconstruction of the stream bed and revegetation of the stream bed with native species. That's complete, and the vegetation is starting to thrive down in the creek bed. And that brings us to the Phase 5, which is the Civic Center itself. At this time, the Civic Center is, as Mayor Gardner mentioned, progressing on schedule and is due to be complete in just about 1 year, in the fall of 2019. The Civic Center consists of 4 separate buildings: an administration building or city hall, a performing arts / council chambers, a community center, and a senior center. At this point in the project, we're what's called coming out of the ground, basically getting our foundations in. As you see on this picture right here, this is looking west across the site from the parking structure. We are starting to dig foundations and finish underground slab utilities, as well as starting to pour some slabs. This is the administration building where we were standing this afternoon. This was about a week and a half ago. You can see the perimeter foundations being poured. Those 2 big boom pumps right there are bringing concrete to the center of the slab, and this is the final result. So we've got 3 slabs now complete. We'll be pouring the 4th slab in about a week and a half at the community center. So the next step is actually building structure. But I wanted to take a minute and talk to you a little bit about the preparation that's been going on for the last 3.5 months since we bid the job. We've been going through a process we call mechanical, electrical, plumbing coordination. And we're using some of the latest technologies available to construction. This picture that you see here is a building information model, essentially a 3-dimensional model of the project. This right here is the bare structure, and this is how the process starts. Once we get the structural system built and understood, we create this 3D model. And then through a process of getting with the other building systems, HVAC, mechanical, plumbing systems, electrical systems, internet, security, all the different systems, we start threading those into the structure and making sure that they fit. As you see on this pretty complicated slide right here, each different color is a different system. And then you'll notice in particular the red boxes, the red squares that are showing up on that plan. That's everywhere where the systems conflict with either the structural system or the other systems. So over the last 3.5 months, we've been going grid by grid through each of the buildings, laying out the utilities in advance and trying to find any potential problems that may delay the project. This brings great efficiencies to the project. Not only does it speed up the construction itself, but it also allows our systems contractors, again, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, to prefabricate a great deal of their products because the dimensions are fixed, allowing them to be, again, more efficient and have the job go up quicker. You'll notice on this next slide, this too is a model. This is of the Performing Arts Center that we were sitting in today. and you'll notice all the red squares gone. So we've gone through the process, we've identified any potential problems, we've mitigated the problems, and that's why when you were out there today, you saw the full frame erected and ready to go. So as we progress over the next few weeks, we're going to get steel for the administration building and for the next 2 buildings, and then work our way into envelope. Again, the job is scheduled to be complete about 1 year from today in the fall of 2019. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to address them now.
Louis, could you go in my office, and you know those pictures on my wall that are pictures of the Civic Center? Could you bring them out and show the people so they can get some better pictures than we have here? I had a question. That way you'll see they look so great, and that picture just doesn't do justice to them. I had a question that people are asking me, and this is a great chance for us to clarify the issue with the Lennar project next door. People are all, particularly Peachwood people, want to know whether or not the Lennar and the Civic Center people are all going to come up Peachwood as well. And my understanding is that they aren't. And I just wanted to clarify that so that the people on Peachwood could sleep easily tonight.
Mayor and Councilmembers, that is correct. Peachwood does not go through. It will remain a cul-de-sac, and they'll have their little area remain the same.
Okay. Wait, any other questions from the council?
Just a quick comment. I'm pleased that we are actually on schedule, and to see it, today, and to get the perspective of what you guys have been doing all of these months. And I know, Keith, you're there every Thursday. It's an intense amount of work, and you guys should be really proud of what you've done. So thanks for keeping us on schedule, and thanks to the staff for just being so excited about the project that it's like seeing your baby grow. You're just so excited to see what's going to happen next. I just really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if I may, I'll introduce Greg Powers. He's our owner's representative, looking out for the city's direct interests on behalf. So we've asked Greg to come, and so this will be a regular quarterly report that we want to come and let the council hear directly from Greg on these kind of matters.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Thankfully, we've been able to manage everything that has gone on the project. We look at the project today and we think the project is smooth and looks beautiful and all this, and it is. It's generally been a very well-run, well-organized, and well-coordinated project. There's a few things, though, that we've experienced that I wanted to share with you guys to let you know what the team's actually doing. Because when they make it look easy, you don't realize that they're paddling like mad, like ducks under the water. One of the areas we had a challenge with was the HVAC systems, for the air conditioning systems. When the submittals came in from the contractor, they changed the system. They came with a whole new HVAC system. So all the clashes that you saw in the models that they were looking at would have been much more significant, and it would have delayed the structural steel even significantly more than any challenge we've had with it. We pushed back. As a team, we pushed back on the contractor and said, no, we don't want to change the system. We want to have the most efficient system, and the system that we bid is what we expect to have built. Well, after a few weeks, we discovered we were able to maintain that same level of delivery, and so we got the original system and the spec back into the project. Those are some of the things that happen when you go through these projects that can actually create significant delays. And we've been fortunate enough to be able to track and kind of control and manage that process. One of the other things that's happening is the team is working really well together to bring together the early review and early identification of finishes, details, all the particulars of the project, so we don't end up in a scenario early next year where we go, well, what do we want to do for the cabinets, or what do we want to do for the lights? All that stuff is being worked out early, and one of the benefits of that is we discovered that the manufacturer for the theater seats went out of business. So we don't need the theater seats for a year, but we now have the ability to manage the process to where it doesn't become a critical path driver to us. We have a contractor on board who's responsible for delivering them, so we don't have a problem there. We have a subcontractor who is to do their job. We don't have a problem there. We just have to make sure that the expectations for what gets delivered on site is going to match what the design was, what the scope was, what the focus and what we're trying to achieve. Had we not been as aggressive as a team tracking these things and pushing these things, we may not discover this until early next year, or then it would have been a potential for us to have to either take something less than what we want, or to have to expedite something at a cost to us. But at this point in time, this becomes just a normal course of business to manage the project. Those are some of the things that we're doing to try and help the team. They've got a very strong team that's managing a lot of RFIs, a lot of challenges, so there's no constraints, no complaints, no issues that I'm seeing with any of that. And I believe that the dates we have are very safe right now for expectations, and I stand fully behind the budget, and that we don't have any issues with budget that I'm aware of. So, do you have any questions for me?
Just a quick question. Recently, up in my community, up in Portola Hills, we had a incident with a construction truck going on residential streets where they should not have been. As our owner's rep, can you make sure that that does not happen in these communities? Because I would hate to see another person lose their life because a truck was where they should not have been.
Well, in our project, fortunately, we don't have any residential areas where we have direct access to our project, because everything comes up Dimension and Indian Ocean. So fortunately, we don't have that concern. But one of the things that we talk about, anytime there's an accident like that, we always have that discussion in our weekly meeting, discussing any potential risks we have. That is there an incident that happened where the poor guy got buried on the one project? We had a long stand down on that. I actually walked the work, and I wrote a report internally where I saw some things to the specific trades that I didn't like seeing. And so it was very proactive. You know, the more proactive we are, the less opportunity for something like that to happen. And that's really, I think, what our role is.
Thank you.
Okay?
As we did habitat restoration to the creek bed, we've got an artesian well that comes out at the southwest corner of our property. Have there been any restoration done there? I couldn't see that from the location.
The lower area around the Civic Center?
Yeah, the lower.
Down the lower area. The restoration within the creek bed zone the habitat zone is already done.
What about where the water
the water course? The water course itself?
The water source, no, there's a water source artesian well that...
We were able to capture all that in the in piping, be able to take that out, and that's what the water that we used created the second wetlands area. So
so that's actually that's no longer on the upper level. That'll be on the lower level.
Right.
Oh, so that's outstanding.
Yeah, we took care of all that. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. That would answer my question.
All right. Anything else?
Thank you. On time, on budget, $1 million. Thanks, to both of you for doing a great job.
Right. Bernard, they've been doing a wonderful job, but then ABR did a wonderful job with the concrete and the park structure. But I, as a council member who has a duty to represent the people of Lake Forest, the money of Lake Forest, I'm so thankful that you're on the job site watching over as our representative. You've done a great job in keeping it on budget and on time. So thank you so much.
I appreciate that. I take this very seriously.
Thank you so much. I feel so much better you're out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to make one extra point. Something we commonly want the public to know when we talk about this project is that we will be debt-free once this project is finished. It is all paid for on a cash basis.
I thought we're debt-free anyway.
We are, but just to reemphasize, we're not going into debt to build this facility.
Oh, no. And thanking Bernard and thanking Greg Powers and his team, we also need to thank the staff because, in fact, this project, massive, they're doing this on top of the stuff they normally did anyway. So, and all the other stuff that you're doing. So on top of the regular stuff, on top of all the extra stuff we're doing, now you have this project, which itself is an enormous project. So it's incredible to me what a good job everybody involved is doing for us to still be on time and on budget. It's just incredible. I applaud you folks. And you better keep it that way. So that's the other side of the coin. You got to keep it that way.
So if you need any suggestions on how to fill your time when the Civic Center's done, see me.
Yeah, we're going to cut everybody's salaries as soon as the center's done. All right, but until then, we're very positive. Anyhow, the district attorney is joining us, so I'm going to take a break from moving on to item 8 and allow him to come and speak with us. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Mayor Gardner, council members, thank you so much for having me here today. And we're going to talk about an issue that's been kind of getting after a number of the of the cities, and so there's been some problems about it. And so I want to speak to you about a new task force that I've assembled to address renegade sober living homes. And as you know, these sober living homes contribute a good deal to our homeless situation here in Orange County. Well, in addition to prosecuting over 60,000 cases a year, my office builds task forces to concentrate on eliminating certain types of complex crimes. One example of a very successful task force that we have, and we built it from the ground up, is the Human Exploitation and Trafficking Unit, known as the HEAT Unit. I'm really proud to say that our HEAT Unit is a nationally recognized leader fighting against modern-day slavery, which is a $32 billion criminal enterprise. Since the inception of the unit, we've obtained nearly 300 felony convictions, and several of those being life sentences. I'm confident that when I tell you the task force that I've assembled to focus on sober living homes, it'll be just as successful. As you're well aware, Orange County is an amazing place with miles and miles of beaches, seemingly unlimited sunny, beautiful homes, amazing shopping opportunities, restaurants, plenty of parks and designated public spaces. It's no wonder people want to live here. Unfortunately, we've become known as the Rehab Riviera, a prime location for unscrupulous operators who recruit people with addictions from around the country and lure them to Orange County with a free plane ticket and promises of treatment. In many cases, this vulnerable population is being brokered as if they're a commodity and not really individuals who are in dire need of help. Once they arrive, they're used and manipulated, and in many cases not treated at all, and then turned out onto the streets to relapse once their insurance coverages run out, only to start the, quote, treatment process over again. Left without resources or a way to get home, these people who came to Orange County looking for help often get curbed, thrown out on the street. Then they become part of the homeless problem, no way to get back to their home, no place to go. And that's unintentional on their part, but here they are. Sober living homes play a huge role in this cycle of this revolving door treatment where the victims use over and over again for the insurance coverage without actually getting help. There are also ancillary crimes that are being committed in and out of these homes. Through sober living home investigation and prosecution, we're going to call that SLIP, Sober Living Home Investigation and Prosecution, I plan to seek legal remedies to protect you and your neighbors from the problems associated with sober living homes while also pursuing cases of insurance fraud, voter fraud, welfare and food stamp fraud, and more. Some of these homes have become a source of nuisance complaints also, sparking noise and parking issues and that sort of thing, affecting the quality of life in our neighborhoods. So in our task force, we already have 2 prosecutors working on these issues from both a criminal and a civil perspective. We have 3 investigators on board and a 4th who's working the issue from a healthcare and insurance fraud perspective. We're in the process of partnering with additional investigators and detectives from several local agencies. So what we're finding with these sober living homes is that there are a lot of sober living homes in the neighborhood, none of which have too many people. And if they have, I think, less than 6 people, and they don't do any treatment, they don't have to register, and they can just be there. Somebody can just rent the place. And I know you've learned this from working on this problem with the cities, with trying to work on it with your city. But what we found is that what we're finding is that they do have off-site treatment centers, and the treatment centers work with several sober living homes, 30, 40, quite a few. Don't know the number of all of them. So we've already filed 1 case in Costa Mesa against the people running this treatment center, and that's affecting a large number of other sober living homes. There are plenty left, but that kind of prosecution affects a lot of them. So that case that we filed it against 4 family members, 2 doctors, and it was a medical insurance fraud, and they were billing insurance companies for actually non-existent treatment or things that they were doing that were entirely unnecessary. They billed $22 million in a urine testing scheme and of course that was operated through that family. So that's one case that we filed, and I can tell you that we're going to have, I think, a lot more effective things coming in the future. We expect to have a substantial announcement coming up at the end of this month. So we need your help, though. We've created a tip line, and we're asking for community members to call 714-647-3228 to report any concerns regarding sober living homes in your respective areas. We've also added a page on our website that allows you to, if you think that you've been victimized, to report your experiences to our office. So we're in a process right now of gathering information. So all of these things coming in on the tip line or through the internet are being looked at. That information is being carefully compiled so that we know what's what and the extent of what we're dealing with. So we're excited about the prospects of our task force, and we think it's going to start making a lot of difference in a very short time. Thank you very much. I appreciate having this opportunity. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to try to deal with those.
Questions?
I first would like to say thank you. You know, Orange County is a great place to live, work, and play, and we got a lot of great departments, whether it be Irvine PD or Anaheim, Orange County Sheriff Department. But the fact is, the one that's really putting them behind the bars is Orange County DAs and your department. So I want to just give you a shout out and thank you for the job that you're doing, and keeping the criminals aware that if they do crime in Orange County and get caught, they're usually going to do time. So it's important for them to know that, and you have actually put that forth, and so we want to thank you as a city. Thank you.
Thank you, and it's my pleasure to get that reputation out for the other counties.
So with the transportation, do these sober living homes, when they pop up, since they don't have treatment centers at the home, are they being bused to do treatment at other facilities?
Right, that's what's happening, and that's one of the things that you can see that is good evidence as to what's happening is you'll see like shuttles coming around and picking people up, taking them off, and bringing them back.
You know, recently there were 3 bills in the up in Sacramento, and they were kind of gutted. I think they're still going through, but the essential elements that are capable of prosecution were gutted away. Is there any attempt by your office to influence Sacramento and put some of those things, like the 300-foot thing in the off-site treatment, those were all taken out?
Right. So what we're still kind of left with at this point is trying to get through the legislature a bill that will outlaw patient brokering, and that's basically trading patients amongst each other and even paying each other for patients and that sort of thing. And in California, we don't have a law against that, and a lot of what is happening is that's a lot of what's taking place. So we went to Florida because they're making a lot of good strides in Florida about these sober living homes, and they've been pretty effective. And one of the reasons is because they do have that particular law, and they're able to prosecute that frequently, and it does make a difference.
Is there something that we as a city could be doing, or is that on our legislative list?
You as a city, you're not. That's going to
no, but to lobby in Sacramento, either through.
I'm sorry, I was trying to answer your question. I know you were asking somebody else about the lobbying effort.
That is on our watch, our legislative. Okay, well, there are 3 bills actually working their way through now, and then we should make sure that we've got all 3 of them so that we could lobby. We did, for your information, we did pass an omnibus ordinance, 9 months ago or several months ago, that deals with the problem of transitional housing. We didn't, as Costa Mesa and some of the other places did, we didn't go against sober living per se, but any kind of transitory housing, so that we have the flexibility of being able to move in many directions without discriminating against any protected group, and that served us well for this year?
We had a couple of ideas, we still do, that we're going to take to the county as model measures, and that we think might be effective. And if we can get those enacted in the county, then we can get them around to the cities too.
Yeah, one of the problems with going after sober living is they hit you with the discrimination that it's a protected class and why are you...
That's right. No, we're aware of that, and that's very much of what handcuffs the cities, and so it's a tough thing.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes. First of all, thank you so much for what you're doing. The thing that people forget is that, the poor people that are kicked to the curb, they are victims of this terrible system that is destroying their lives. And, something I would love to see in legislation, which, obviously you can't enact, but I would love to see a legislation that says when people fall off the wagon, that part of the requirement is they have to be sent home. So my question to you is, Lake Forest has a program where we are really working with homeless to try to help get them back home if they are misplaced through, for example, a sober living home. But from your office perspective, when you're uncovering these sober living homes that are not operating properly and they're getting shut down, is the DA doing anything to coordinate with the cities to make sure that those victims are able to get back home to their families?
So we are working to try to help those victims get back home to their families. That's certainly an important part of what we do. And and thank you for recognizing that these people are in fact victims, and oftentimes they've just seen some advertisement, or family members have seen some advertisement out of state and come to beautiful Southern California to sober up, and they come here, and of course it's ineffective, and then they're out on the street. So a number of things. We think we can require registration. We think we might be able to require them to get insurance, and additionally, it might. I'm not sure how far we can reach, but we'd like to make a requirement that if they advertise and if they give somebody a ticket here, they have to guarantee a ticket home afterwards.
Yes.
I think what the Mayor Pro Tem was telling you, that here in Lake Forest, we have that program. So if you get a Lake Forest person, we have that already set up. So we'd be more than happy to cooperate.
That's great.
At the same time, it's just, countywide, we're seeing such a huge problem over the entire county. That would be such a great program to have implemented to just help those victims get home.
And we look forward to working with the Lake Forest in that endeavor to every extent that we can. I think that's obviously a great thing. It's great for the victims. It's also good for the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just thank you for being here. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Just a little bit more general, not necessarily on the sober living topic. You mentioned that your office handles 60,000 cases per year. How many attorneys do you have right now that are managing that many cases?
We have about 264 attorneys.
Okay.
In fact, we were just looking at that caseload today. I spent most of the morning in a meeting discussing that, because it's getting more and more difficult because of the extent of the information that we're getting on a given case.
Great. Well, thank you. Has that number increased over the last few years? Just the annual caseload, or is it staying steady?
It's increased a little bit, but not as much as it needs. Honestly, I'm not here to try to make a case for getting more resources, but we could use a lot more resources, of course.
Well, I appreciate that comment, and I understand that's not the focus of your attention tonight, but I think that crime in general is becoming a more and more significant issue for all of us, even though we're living in a very safe area, and we feel very fortunate to live where we are with the passage of Prop 47 and 57, watching those number of crimes that now really can't be prosecuted, and seeing those folks that are just out on the street just to continue to offend again is a big concern. And also we have clearly a changing demographic throughout Orange County, and specifically in South Orange County and Lake Forest. And I think that we're starting to have higher and higher expectations, both out of our police force as well as out of your office. And so if that requires, additional attorneys and you're looking for more resources, I just want you to know that you have an advocate, definitely from me, and I would assume that from my colleagues and the residents here, because we want to see more of those crimes prosecuted. And I think that a lot of times the frustration that we have is that you don't have the resources, you don't have the time and ability to go after all of those that we feel really should be, and there's probably more plea bargains than we would like to see and you would like to see, but you only have so many resources to do what you have to do. And so I just wanted to explain that you have an advocate from my perspective to get you additional funding, because I think this is the public safety side is the number one responsibility for local government. It's the number one responsibility, obviously, for your agency. It's what it's meant to do. And so, I just want to make sure that our focus is in the right place and we can be there to support the agency.
Thank you, and I greatly appreciate that. And mentioning Prop 47, that's really the culprit as far as the petty thefts and all the misdemeanor drug offenses and that sort of thing. And it's really that proposition. There were some other propositions too, but that proposition really has taken a great deal of the accountability away from and taken the teeth out of the law as far as these crimes, a lot of which were felonies and now have become misdemeanors. So we have put together an initiative that does have the signatures to go onto the ballot, but it was a slow count, and so we didn't make the ballot in November, but it's on the ballot for 2020. They'll be putting back some of these things that Prop 47 took apart. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I do. Proposition 47, obviously, petty theft and our car burglaries and home burglaries, but these sober living homes or so-called homes where there's no law that protects the tenant there from being kicked out onto the street and just being put out on the street without a family in California, or there's no kind of law protecting them right now?
There is not.
So they're actually been put out on the street, and that's probably been an uptick in our burglaries and our car break-ins, because whether they're looking for food or drugs, they're out on the street with no support.
Well, it certainly adds to the homeless situation as far as whether or not they go out and commit crimes. We don't have any indication on that at this point. But I have heard a number of people notice that if you see somebody on the street with doesn't appear to have any place to go, but has fairly good-looking luggage, that's probably somebody that was here under that circumstance.
And I just want to have you once again brag about your success in human trafficking. How many victims have you taken off the street?
I was bragging one day.
I know you were, but that's worthy of bragging, because those are victims that are the most vulnerable and are being sometimes abused for years. And so, thank you for doing that. And how many are those? That is something that.
So we talked about victims. This human trafficking thing is just. It's really an ugly mess. I mean, we've got these defendants are violent, predatory criminals who don't care about the life of the people that they're exploiting, and the women especially that they're putting out on the street or otherwise advertising are victims they're terrible victims of these crimes, and so. We have convicted now over 300 of these pimp, slave owner people. We have another close to 200 of those cases pending, and those guys aren't on the street either. So we're beginning to make, we're certainly making an impact, but we're getting to the point where there's a difference. We're not seeing as many women being put out on the street. So. But this is another area where, when we bring the case, we have victims who need assistance. They need a lot of time and a lot of help, and some of them can just be, they find their home and they can go home. But that's a few. Most of them are in a devastated situation and don't know what to do or where to go, and they need a lot of help.
Okay, that's 300 that you've prosecuted that are actually behind bars, 200 more that are off the street and hopefully will be prosecuted and put behind bars.
How many cases are pending?
How many victims approximately? Do we have?
Well, at least that many. I mean,
do they have more than one?
We need to have at least a victim to testify, and in most of these cases, it's going to be 2 or 3. There's going to be the victim. There's going to be some other corroboration, some additional evidence, and these defendants have maybe anywhere from 2 or 3 to 10 or 12 women that they're marketing.
So that's up towards maybe 3,000 people that are no longer under bondage. So
could be.
I didn't mean no derogatory remark. Keep bragging about that because that is a bragging statement.
I know you didn't mean it in a derogatory way.
It is. That's something you guys should be very proud of because those young ladies and young people don't need to be in their bondage like that in Orange County or in America. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Just in case all this talk time is depressing you, Lake Forest, we have in the past 4 years had our lowest crime rate in history. So our crime rates are really low, and they're low even at the same time that our calls for service have increased dramatically. So we're getting higher expectations from people, but the actual crimes being committed are low. So that's a real commendation to the police department and the excellent work that they're doing, that our crime rate is not only low, but for the first time in a long time, we are lower than most of our neighboring cities. We used to be higher than most of our neighboring cities. We're now lower with lower crime rates than ever before. So congratulations, Chief, and to your department for the great job you're doing, and keep it up, just like with the construction. Keep it up. They've done a great job, and obviously the DA. Moving right along. We have item number 8, consideration to rename the Parks and Recreation Commission to the Community Services Commission, submitted by the Community Services Director.
I move community service recommendation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We have 2 speaker cards, Your Honor. Jim Rosenberg, followed by Victor Scher.
A member of the Parks and Recreation Commission. No, right now it's still Parks and Recreation.
Councilmember Robertson, I see the look on your face as I approach the microphone. To allay your fears, I'm limited to 3 minutes.
Can we give him 30 seconds, please?
Okay. Mr. Mayor and members of council, Jim Rosenberg here to speak on behalf of item number 8. I also claim to be the culprit and the guilty party that initiated this because it became obvious after quite a number of years that the scope of what our commission does has greatly expanded beyond just a plot of land and some equipment that goes on it and maybe occasionally how it is used or maintained. I think the staff report characterizes very well the breadth of what we do today. I've had the opportunity, if my memory serves me, to speak individually to everybody on the dais right now over the past few months about this idea. Didn't hear much that was negative. Bringing it to our commission, it was unanimously supported, and I would ask for positive consideration on behalf of every one of you to approve that name change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Victor Scher.
Also from the Parks and Recreation Commission. And Loretta, you're not going to get up and talk too? Come on. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, Council, both Jim and I feel very passionate, as well as the rest of the commission, in terms of this change. When the commission was created in 1992, the primary objective was to manage open space and park infrastructure. At that particular time, we were emerging as a growth curve and organizing the number of parks as best as could be best happen. But now we find ourselves in our role, as Jim pointed out earlier in his presentation, that we are getting heavily involved in programming and special events, and we are reflecting off the community services role in the community that has branched out not only to special needs, but a number of cultural events that will be emerging. Once our Civic Center is online, you will see a major expansion of activities and new programs now that we have the facility to do it with and the additional resources. So to continue the input that the commission is chartered to do to the staff and to the city council, the name change will best reflect our existing role as well as our future role in terms of supporting the demographics and the growth that our city is experiencing. It also will match the name of the Community Services Department to provide a tremendous amount of consistency. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And we have a motion by Tim. Oh, did we have Facebook Live? No. I think they go to sleep early on Facebook Live. So they come at the public comments, and then we never hear from them again. So they're up there, drinking, things like that. Is there a baseball game? Okay. Any comments? Let's vote, please.
That motion carries unanimously.
Yeah, Community Services has done a great job. We provide terrific programming. Yeah, they have very hard-working people. Before I was on the council, I used to go to those meetings, and I used to harass them about dog parks and things like that. There was no question that that's a hard-working bunch of people. Yeah. Item number, aren't you glad I'm on the council now? I can't come there and harass you anymore. I think they all voted for me the last time to get me the hell out of the commission so I could get up here. Thank you for your vote. Number 9, maybe, of the new senior facility. That's the one that we just saw today, the one that we're... and do we have a report on that? Would that be from you?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Actually, a report's going to be given by Recreation Manager Vicki Blevin. Vicki oversees our senior programs.
I see you have a senior advisory person here.
I do. Did anybody put any... Okay, there's a card for that. Okay. Do you want to have her speak first, or I can go however you feel?
So, either way, why don't you speak, because then maybe they'll have a question for you.
Perfect.
So they get a chance to see what you have to say.
So, Mayor and Council, tonight I'm come forward with you in regards to the naming of our new facility. I'm trying to make my excitement not be too overabundant about the fact that we are now at the point of being able to name this facility, going back to when we originally had our senior clubhouse at Santiago de Compostela, where we probably had 5 people coming on a daily basis. So we're at a great position right now. So if you remember back in April of 2017, staff came to you and asked for your approval on a process to be able to name this new facility moving forward. And the process that you directed us to do was to involve as many population as we can, seniors, residents, senior advisory board, and staff. And so that's what we did. And beginning in March of 2018, we initiated the It's Your Turn to Name the New Center campaign. Note in that campaign name there is not the word senior. So we wanted to let's name the facility. We publicized this new the campaign through the Leisure Times, the senior newsletter, through the website, through Facebook Live, through Facebook, as many ways possible that we could get this information out to the residents and to the seniors. And then on May 9th, we took that information to our Senior Advisory Board, and they selected 5 names out of the 100 and some that we got. And the 5 names that they decided on were heavily emphasized by not having the word senior in them, by not having the word bingo in them, by not, and believe me, we got quite a few names that included bingo. Bingo Funhouse, the Bingo Den. We like bingo all the time. So we took the name bingo out of those ones that were moved forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly right. Even though they do like to play bingo, we realized that the majority of seniors, in all honesty, did not want anything that would make that thought process of a sedentary population. So bingo would be moved out of that. And then at the June 21st meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission, we had the Parks and Recreation Commission now, the Community Service Commission, bring forward their 3 choices to bring to you, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about tonight. Their 3 choices included the clubhouse, 50-plus clubhouse, and the Lake Forest clubhouse. Keeping in mind, once again, that the trend now is to not include the word senior in your title of any way in your marketing. Now, if you look at, let's say, the Oasis Center and the Norman P. Murray Center, they do have the word senior in them as just a notation to know where the facility is at, but in the majority of their marketing pieces, the word senior is not put within that information. And so that's coming up with those 3 names was along those lines. And so this evening, we're bringing forward to you, in the context of what the Senior Advisory Board asked for, what the Parks and Recreation Commission asked for, we're bringing forward to you what our recommendation would be, which would be the clubhouse. So we're leaving that up to you now to decide if that's what you would like. You have one speaker that would like to talk in recognition to that. The idea behind the clubhouse also as well is that we would have taglines that would associate it with the 50-plus or with seniors that would make people on the realization, like the Oasis Center and Norma P., that that's what this facility is for. But the word senior would not be included, and that is the national trend, not to have those in the names of these facilities. And I'm here to answer any other questions for you if you have any of those.
Any questions? Well, let's see the public comment.
Betty Atwell.
Welcome, and thanks for your service to the seniors.
You're more than welcome. I need to discuss this naming of the senior center. This is going to be a legacy that we leave for our city, and I think it needs to be a really good name, and I don't think the clubhouse really says this is what we are. I think that the Lake Forest Clubhouse, likewise, I wouldn't know what that is. Is that for everybody in Lake Forest to go to? I think the 50-plus clubhouse kind of says something. It says what it is, who's going there, and I realize that the current group of seniors like the word clubhouse, as that's what they use here, but it would be more meaningful to attract these younger seniors that we've talked about in the 50s and the 60s, so that they can enjoy the 50-plus clubhouse as well. By not specifying what the facility will be used for, in other words, for those 50 and over, a generic the clubhouse will have people under 50 and possibly children of all ages thinking this is a building open to them for their activities. I don't think it would be good PR for the city to have to tell these groups that the building is meant for people 50 plus. In other words, we'd be turning people away, and it would be much clearer to use the 50 plus clubhouse name, which tells everyone the age group that is using this facility. I think I covered those 2 points. And in making this decision, like I say, we're creating this whole new image of our Civic Center, and I think it would be wonderful if we could pick something a little bit different. I was looking through several of the local cities, and they're going to stick with senior, as far as I can tell. Laguna Beach Community and Susie Q Senior Center. The OASIS, which is actually an acronym for Older Adult Social and Info Services. And then Laguna Niguel Center is called Sea Country Senior and Community Center. So the seniors I'd like to see us get rid of it, but it's still pretty prominent out there. So anyhow, that's my comment.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
The Oasis, that actually rings a bell.
Yeah, Oasis is the center that's in Newport Beach. And once again, they do have the name senior on the facility itself, but the marketing pieces don't always go out with the word senior in it. And so if you look online, it will say Oasis Senior and Community Center. And when they say community center, what they're referring to is that in some instances in the evenings and on the weekends, it may be used as a community center. It may be used for people who are not 50 and older.
But we have a community center right next door.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just saying, in the instances that were brought up, that's...
She does make a good point, because if we don't include some acronym,
yes,
putting the age, you may have 30 couples showing up, and for the, I mean, it's something...
And that's part of the marketing piece that we would do in the publications is have that recognized, or have it be the clubhouse with 50 plus tagline. We can come up with that as well, but that's to your discretion, obviously, to give us directive, so we can, once the name is made, then we can start using it to brand and market the new facility.
Questions, comments?
It was kind of my first thought, too, when I heard the word the clubhouse. All I could think of, you're saying bingo. My kids love bingo. We'd be showing up to bingo.
As much as possible, right? Yeah.
So I agree that I think, I understand not wanting to put senior in the name. I completely get that. But there's got to be something that helps people who are not 50 and over to know
recognize that. Correct.
Yeah, that that's not their group yet.
Correct.
I like Oasis. I thought that sounded like a great name. I don't know what everyone else thinks, or 50 plus club, or Club 50, or something.
And these are the names that were vetted through the senior advisory board, vetted through the senior clubhouse. So I do recognize the fact of having that name recognition of who this is for.
I actually like senior clubhouse better than I like just clubhouse. I mean, we're not. It is senior. The Lake Forest Oasis Clubhouse. I don't know. I'm just.
It was about a year ago. We had a big meeting about that.
Yes, correct.
Everybody there at the meeting, I remember, didn't want to have the senior name, so they felt very strongly about that.
They don't want to be known as seniors, and realizing that even we have one senior who is 94, who could run circles around all of us. So that the part of the senior is partially why. They don't think of themselves as a senior. They think of that as a negative connotation. But the fact, no matter what Buddy is saying, is to have that, this is who this facility is for. I can 100% agree with.
My mother went to the Oasis Beach, and she was 88 years old.
Yeah.
She used to complain about all the old people there.
I have an aunt the same way. She came to a family function. She's 94. She said, "Where did all these old people come from?" I said, "Aunt Doris, these are your family members."
Yeah. Oh, Facebook Live.
Yes, sir. We have one comment on Facebook Live.
Good.
Melinda Kennedy, comment for council. Quote, "The clubhouse," end quote, "sounds like a horror movie."
Well said.
That would be the club space house. Rather than the club. Yeah, I'm not.
Your Honor.
I'm not overly impressed with the clubhouse.
We just received another speaker.
Oh, good. Okay, I'll take my seat. If I have other questions, I'll come back on.
Okay, thanks.
One of the crazy things when I went to the Leadership Academy was that as somebody who just turned 50, was that being a senior was being 50 years old. So I was at the gym the other day with this guy who, 5-star athlete going to Arizona State Division I school, Power 5 school, and I can bench press twice as much as he can, and I was outrunning him. So for a 50-year-old person to be considered a senior, I think in 2 years, infertility is not going to exist. In 5 years, leukemia is not going to exist. So with medical science and nutrition, somebody who's 50 years old, you could probably take 20 years off of them. So that's something to consider moving forward in the next 20 to 30 years, naming this facility, that a senior isn't really a senior. If you're going to put it, the baseline at 50 years old.
How long do we have to make up our minds? We have a year.
So the facility's not going to open for quite some time, but for marketing purposes.
I make a suggestion.
Wait, it's a little quicker than that, because in one of the 22 contracts you have approved for the Civic Center, we've got to start making the signs. We'll have to get back. I don't know if Tom knows, but it's coming up pretty quick where those decisions would need to be made.
We got a month?
You probably have a month.
Well, are we going to be any better in a month than we are tonight? I don't know.
Well, I know we asked the seniors and the senior advisory group and a lot of people that are involved in the seniors, but we didn't ask anybody that wasn't a senior. And that might actually affect the name, because to somebody who's not a senior, what key words would they catch that would tell them that that's a senior program, taking out the word senior? So it would be Club 50 Plus or Studio 50 or some name that could get the young people's attention to know that that is a senior program. So we didn't approach it from that perspective. So if we could maybe find a way to pull non-senior citizens and ask them what name would they choose that doesn't have the word senior in it. Maybe that, I can poll on Facebook for a, independent,
I think we can do that. I think what we can do is we can reach out through Facebook and social media to solicit additional recommendations, and we can bring some of those back to the City Council.
Was 50 Clubhouse a name?
These were all suggested names. So all of these are not from me and Vicki. These are from seniors.
The senior from all the seniors from the Senior Advisory Board.
So they were okay with 50 Clubhouse?
The 3 that came back out of the 100 of initial ones, yes, one was 50 plus Clubhouse. The other one was the Clubhouse, and the last one was Lake Forest Clubhouse. Those are through all of the feedback we from the Senior Advisory Board, from the Senior Newsletter. Those were on the back of the Senior Newsletter. There was a half page where they could turn the information in.
So in our marketing and in our newsletters and stuff, the Clubhouse with the parties of the seniors, the 50-plus crowd, would that be marketed as
in our marketing, we would have distinctive information saying that it is for 50-plus, and that's what we do now. 50 comes from AARP. That's not a distinction that we came up for as senior. That's from AARP, that you're considered a senior.
Yes, we were mortified when we started getting AARP
Right?
at our house.
And they know, like, the next day after your birthday, you get that AARP information. Am I correct on that? Yes. Yes. Right? How do they know that quickly? Yes. So that's how those 3 names have come to you.
It deserves more time.
All right, just tell me, you think we're going to be in a better position? That's my only...
I think we'll probably bring you a few more names. My only concern would be they might not be names that actually come from the seniors themselves, because we might not know if we receive these through Facebook, through social media. We won't necessarily know. These were the product, I think, of a discussion and kind of ongoing workshops. It started with the kind of at the grassroots level during the senior lunches when they have up to 160 seniors present. Some of those were forwarded to the Senior Advisory Board. I think that they narrowed it down, and then they submitted their top 5 to the commission. So we can certainly do more outreach if that's what you'd like us to do. It means that we would have a couple of more names, but I can't guarantee that they would come from seniors.
Mayor, members of the council, we could also bring you some mock-ups of signage, and that might help too, what we're trying to describe, where you'd have the facility name, but there'd also be the word senior designated somewhere on the building.
Correct.
We could bring that to you as well. That might help. In trying to
So
visualize it.
underneath clubhouse, senior, we could be put on there?
Yeah. So we could bring some of that back to you so you can see it.
I'm okay with that then. I mean,
I'm just not crazy about it. Doesn't, oh, that's a great name. Just doesn't grab me. It's nothing, I don't mind it. I just,
But I think as if we're going to do the polling, we know what the seniors don't want, and I think that's really important to differentiate. So if we know they don't want the word senior in the name, and they don't want bingo in the name, we just make sure that, we took their advice and their suggestions, but maybe someone who's not a senior is going to come up with this, crazy, wonderful name. So I think it's worth an additional 2 weeks. Maybe, can we bring it back in 2 weeks?
No, we'd need a month.
yeah.
Since I'm the most senior person on the dais here, I will throw out my senior comment, and I said this as a joke almost, but several years ago, my wife had a certain birthday. Her coworkers gave her a cup that said chronologically gifted. That'd be a great...
Oh, I like that. Chronologically gifted.
I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It makes the clubhouse sound good.
So as I think the youngest member on here, maybe I might have beat you by a couple of months, Leah, but
I think I got you beat.
yeah, I know. So I think just by a few months, but I haven't received anything in the mail yet, even though I look like I should. I think that we've vetted this pretty well. So I agree with the mayor. I don't know that we're necessarily going to come up with much different names than what we already have, and if we do, then they're going to be ones that will be generated by staff and full of people. I think that we've given the seniors through the senior clubhouse right now the opportunity to weigh in on this, and I take that information with a great deal of weight, and I don't need any further time. So I'd be good with any of the names at this point, but we've got 3 names in front of us. So, I'm just going to move that we move forward with the clubhouse, and that we direct the staff to focus their marketing materials and then any additional signage around the facility to make sure that we can differentiate between the two. Because from what I'm hearing, there's 2 different issues. There's the concern about younger people coming in and maybe causes a little bit of chaos for everybody, because what exactly is going on here, and then also trying to attract the empty nesters that probably at this point, as far as the federal government is concerned, kind of feel somewhere in the middle, right? So there is no AARP for empty nesters, right? It's just you're either this or that, and those in the middle need something. And that's an area where, you're going through a lot of stress in life. You're starting to, if you've had children, you're losing your kids off to college, you're going through a lot, and you're trying to connect with people, and maybe all those connections have been related to your kids, and then they kind of start to break off. So I think it's an important segment that we need to focus on. I just think adding too much additional to it just doesn't make sense to me. So I'm just going to move that we stick with Clubhouse, and
I'll second that,
and focus on it.
Yeah, I'm going to support that, because although it doesn't jazz me up, I'm worried that we'll come up with something that jazzes us up, but we're not there, and hundreds of people. So this is their feedback to us, and we're picking the best that they come up with. They're the users. So.
And we'll have some really good taglines to add to that name for recognition as well.
All right, well, there's a motion and a second, and let's have a vote.
That motion carries unanimously.
All right, the city manager's report.
I'm really tempted to give you a 20-minute presentation.
You wouldn't dare.
But nothing else this evening.
Nothing at all. How about a 2-minute? Nothing. When does your written, we make you do a written one every quarter. When's your next written one?
The second meeting in October.
Oh, okay. All right, then it turns to the City Council, and I'll go to my right here, Colonel Cagley.
Just a couple of things, Your Honors. I mentioned to you earlier, we had some trees over in areas that do not have homeowners associations, and between the curb and the sidewalks, and a couple of them are pretty sickly-looking palm trees, for one, over on Lavaca in particular. And also on Muirlands Boulevard over the weekend, there had been a pile of trash in a suicide lane between Tulip and Ridge Route. And who's supposed to pick that stuff up?
Street people.
I know street sweepers don't go down Muirlands, I don't think.
They will as soon as you tell me where the trash is.
Between Tulip and Ridge Route, in the middle lane there. It's been there since Friday, Tom.
We'll take care of it. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Robinson?
So I addressed this a little bit when the district attorney was here, and I wasn't seeking to embarrass him in any way, but I just kind of feel like, in spite of the fact that, some indicators are showing that crime is down, that, it's our number one responsibility. And I'm incredibly concerned about these propositions that have just kept a lot of criminals out on the street that should be put away. And specifically with the district attorney's office, my real concern is that there's just way too many plea bargains going on. And so when it comes to crime here in town, I've talked a little bit to the city manager and the city attorney previously about the potential to start looking at prosecuting some of our own cases. I know that it's something that Huntington Beach, I think, has looked at. A few other cities have. And so at some point, I would love to get some additional information back to all the council members if possible. I'm not asking for an agenda item or anything like that at this point. And I'm not asking for, obviously, prosecuting capital crimes or anything of huge significance, but, I feel like when I hear the number 60,000 cases and fewer than 300 attorneys, they've got 200 cases a year. There's only so much that they can actually do. And my expectations are much higher than they have the capabilities for. So like I told him when he was at the mic, I will advocate on his behalf to have additional funding. But, at this point, I think that we need to just look at what we can do to continue to improve. Continual improvement means that, as we all know, we're just trying to be a little bit better every single year. And, we don't want to stagnate in any way. Even if we're at a great number, we want to make it even better the next year. So those are just some comments. If you have the time, and I don't know if I need any support on that. But then one other thing, tonight we had a couple of items that kind of relate to our new Community Services Department. Congratulations on the name change. Congratulations on the naming of the Senior Center. These are two things that I know have been looked at quite a bit over the last couple of years. I've addressed this previously. It kind of showed up in a strange way in one of our budget discussions, but I'd really like to see the Park and Rec Commission, the Community Services Commission, former Park and Rec Commission, and the Community Services Department look at the potential for private companies to be able to provide some services to the community in some way. And it's kind of strange. From a sports park perspective, we're not a city that's had like private concerts where someone rents out a park. Happens a lot in beach cities. They have private concerts out there, things of that nature. We haven't done that. I think all of us would say it probably makes sense with a performing arts theater. We're used to some play or something going on where there's a box office and you pay for tickets and things like that. I'd like us to look at that in a more broad way, because I think that the opportunity exists for private companies to provide some services that maybe the city can't. I mean, we know that moving forward, as great as we are in the position that we are financially, there's a lot of challenges here. If we want to keep our pavement condition index at 80, it's really, really expensive. We spend a lot of money. And, I think that there are some things that private companies could do where where residents could pay a fee to attend some of those events, just like they do right now, Dino Days and things of that nature, they could pay a fee to attend some of these things. And, we could even have potentially scholarships or things like that for those that can't afford whatever that private company might be charging for those events. So this is something I've talked to the staff about, a fair amount over the last probably over a year now. But I just thought I'd bring it up since we kind of generally touched on these two particular topics tonight. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Voights?
I'd like to compliment staff and the overseeing of the development and the building of our Civic Center. It was a marvelous tour that we had this evening, and looking forward to many years of memories in a community center that's Lake Forest's own. So for our high school, for our weddings, there's going to be, for our seniors to be able to have their own clubhouse. It's going to be such a wonderful campus atmosphere because of the beauty that we have, the views that we have from there. So I just got to compliment you guys and compliment the construction companies and our advocate out there in the field, Red Brick. Ended not this last week, the week before, the last of the concert series here in Lake Forest, and I just got to say what a great concert it was at the sports park, and what a great series we had this year. Thank you to Lake Forest staff, and for all the things that we have going on, for all the political drama that we've had. You guys have always kept your face going forward and focusing on the job, and so thank you guys from us as council members. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
At the last meeting, I had directed staff with council support to send a letter to the Orange County Animal Care because of an abuse case with an animal, and just to have better oversight into the free pet adoption program. Well, after that meeting, it was brought to my attention by a resident that dog that was in question was she did pass away, but the dog was not abused in the manner that was previously thought. So I just wanted to come forward and just retract my previous statement that the dog was abused because more information had come out later. However, that particular case with that animal, it still would have required some proper oversight because apparently the dog owner fell into hard times and relinquished the pet to someone else instead of back to the Orange County Animal Shelter. So I still support my request to have a letter written to the Orange County Animal Care, but I wanted to retract my statement about the dog being abused.
Okay. Civic Center, on time and on budget, debt-free, crime rate the lowest in the last 4 years than we've been in our history. I know he's looking at me. Chief's looking at me. This year is not the lowest. 2 years ago was the very lowest. But still, crime rate doing well. Parks and Recreation Commission and all the parks. We've got 10 parks on the way, and Veterans Pond Park someday will be finished, so we're looking forward with that. So many good things going on. I wanted to mention, in addition to all of those things, Carlo's not here. He's usually here. Where's Carlo? He didn't have an item. He's always got an item. Carlo's our economic development guy, and he is he the busiest guy in the city or not? I can't ask the city manager to say that, but I can say that because, we are doing some acquisitions. We have become very active in trying to bring businesses to the city, and we're not free to talk about that right now, but in the next 2 or 3 months you're going to raise your eyebrows about holy, and that's largely been the result of the economic development people working really hard to bring new businesses to the city. I wish I could say it tonight, but I'm still under confidence not to say it. This Friday, the General Plan Advisory Committee. Isn't that this Friday? Oh, it's a Thursday. Okay. I have so many things, it's just like one big day to me. This Thursday night, 6:30. We have an advisory committee. I think there's a little more than a dozen people, but this is your city, and this is your general plan. So by all means, you can come to that and provide your input. This is how we're going to try to deal with the city going forward for the next 20 or 30 years. So that's a really important move forward for the city. I would encourage everybody to show up in person. And Jonathan, will we be doing that Facebook Live? No.
We have not discussed it yet. We certainly can.
All right. Imagine not doing such an important meeting, not doing that live. I can't imagine. I'll come and help you work the camera if I have to. But that's an opportunity for people in the city to participate in building the city. More important maybe than the city council going forward. So I would encourage you, since I can't tell you Facebook Live, I would encourage you to come in person and participate in that group. And thank you very much, those of you here, for participating in the city tonight, and those of you on Facebook. And I'll see you in 2 weeks.